everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, you have a movie starring Peter Sellers, one of the funniest comedians that has ever lived. You have additional materials supplied by John Cleese and Graham Chapman, which I think is a code word for they wrote their own routines. You have guest stars in the forms of Christopher Lee and Raquel Welch. And for some bizarre reason, this is still one of the most boring comedies I've ever seen. Maybe this movie has aged so horribly that it doesn't work, or maybe it is something else. Maybe Joseph McGrath is to blame for this one, the director of this movie. Maybe, a Blake Edwards or something like that could have made this work. I don't know, but we're gonna find out together why this movie kinda doesn't work. One thing do work, however, and that is the very catchy tune, "You better hurry 'cause it's going fast," which apparently was, written for the movie, so at least we got that out of them. What else did we get out of this movie? Not very much, but let's find out what this movie is about, shall we? This is The Magic Christian. This very wealthy man played by Peter Sellers, Sir Guy. One day Sir Guy stumbles across a bum in a park. He's called Young Man and he's played by Ringo Starr. Okay, so Ringo Starr is in this movie, and so Young Man is just this guy who, go with the flow and doesn't do anything particular with his life. And for some reason, Sir Guy decides that he's going to adopt him as his own legitimate son. And now father and son is going to go on a journey together, a spiritual journey, if you will, to show us why money rules the world, I think. And they're going to do some pretty unfunny sketches that doesn't really go anywhere and is not at all connected to the overarching story, which there isn't really any story in this movie, but I digress. There's also this underlying thing about the Magic Christian, the most magical of cruise ships that has ever been assembled. And it's going on its maiden voyage, to New York. Not everybody's going to be able to secure a ticket, but those who will have an experience that they will never forget. But we're gonna have to, put the Magic Christian bit to the end of this movie. It's like the last 25 minutes, but we'll get there eventually, because we have to, make space for, these unfunny sequences where they, go quail hunting and brings down those damn birds with anti-aircraft guns and stuff like that. And sometimes they just amuse themselves sitting in the sofas and, watching TV and watching, coups in South America or race riots in the United States. What a load of lols. The only sequences that I think kind of works is the sequences where they go around and, bribes people to, eat parking tickets or, humiliate themselves for money and stuff like that. Those sequences kind of sort of works. This is also a sequence where John Cleese plays a very pompous auctioneer slash art dealer. That is actually the only sequence in the entire movie that kind of, asks serious and actually kind of deep questions about greed, the power of money and stuff like that, because almost the entire movie, the entire thing with the money and all that is very ham-fisted, and a lot of the times it basically, is very hypocritical, but maybe I'm just, interpretate things not exactly correct. But then we have the last 25 minutes of this movie where actually, Christopher Lee will show up as Dracula. It's awesome, but he's, gone after a minute. Raquel Welch will also show up in a fantastic outfit, commanding a bunch of slave girls on some kind of galley, dressed in absolutely nothing. What does this contribute to anything? I have absolutely no idea, because the entire sequence on the Magic Christian makes absolutely no sense, but also kind of makes sense, and it's an, LSD marinated piece of absolute nonsense that, is so random and so look how cookie wookie we are that you kind of get tired with the whole sequence after a while. I kind of like the sequence in the end where they fill this, gigantic pool with money and feces and blood and stuff like that, and forces people to, climb down into it, in search of the money that lies there, humiliating themselves and stuff like that. And it was kind of fun. Otherwise, I suspect this is a movie that worked much better in 1969 than 2023. It is somehow even worse when I rewatched it for the purpose of this review than when I saw it the first time. Then I just thought it was really boring. Now I think it is incredibly boring. For some reason, Peter Sellers isn't really funny in this one. The only guy who sort of kind of pulls off something that is legitimately funny is actually John Cleese. You shouldn't be surprised about that, but he's just there for his single sequence and then we'll never see him again. Is this a movie that you should see? Absolutely not. Even if you like, 60s comedies and stuff like that, there are so many better 60s comedies than this. And basically everybody that participates in this movie has been funnier and better in far funnier and better movies than this one. This is a movie that you should definitely skip. It is very boring, it's very tedious. There's really nothing that glues this thing together. It's just a bunch of kind of boring sketches leading up to the longest sketch, the Magic Christian sequence, and that is just so weird and it's just so LSD infused kind of wacky nonsense that doesn't really work. If you're gonna see a good 60s comedy with Peter Sellers, The Party is a very, very funny movie. This one fucking isn't. By the way, if you're wondering why Ringo Starr doesn't have many lines in this movie, that is actually because Peter Sellers stole a lot of them because he didn't want people to remember Ringo Starr more than him. Actually, the entirety of this movie is basically a lot of Peter Sellers treating this like an egomaniac and having this as a pet project and trying to, make John Cleese fired from this movie because he was afraid that he was going to be seen as more funny than he is and stuff like that. The whole thing feels a bit egotistical of him and made me actively dislike this movie even more, and especially Peter Sellers, a comedian I really like in most cases. I give The Magic Christian 20 points. It is a boring, unfocused comedy with a bunch of incredibly talented comedians not being very funny. I think Ringo Starr was kind of okay in this one, and there are sequences in this movie that looks kind of impressive and looks like nothing you've ever seen before, but after a while even that thing grows a little thin. So I'll see you next time for Well So and So Reviewing Well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.